The yearly report of 1914. A few world events that happened in 1914 that were very important during that time. Some of the most noticeable events and events that most people seem to know are the events that led up to the First World War and what immediately happened after it was declared. Um, some other events that happened was that President Wilson had refused to recognize Huerta as the president of Mexico on the simple grounds that he had not been elected by the people, which later on had caused the Mexican president Huerta to break off diplomatic relations with the US a couple of days later. The British House of Lords had rejected women's suffrage, which was at a time where women were really working hard and trying to get themselves heard and out there and try to promote their own rights and equality. Because there was such a great focus on what was going on conflict wise in the world at this time, there weren't as many inventions or discoveries as other years, like the year before and the year after in the world. But some of the inventions that did happen during this year were the first fighter planes that was created and flown in 1914 due to the war. Mechanism was seen in multiple aspects of World War I, one of them being motor vehicles being used on a battlefield, which they replaced wagons and horses. While air cooling machine was invented in New York in 1902, it was in 1914 when a unit was first introduced into a home. The space rocket was patented, in which scientists had been inspired by H.G. Wells and Jules Verne, who were science fiction writers, and they were inspired enough where they were able to come up with ideas and start designing them, and they were also inspired by the Chinese who invented the fire rockets, which were fireworks. August 5th was when the first electric light was installed in the US on the corner of East 105th Street and Euclid Avenue in Cleveland, Ohio. Like important inventions that happened in 1914, there weren't a lot of discoveries that happened in 1914 due to the beginnings of the war. But astronomer Seth Barnes Nicholson in California was able to identify a new moon in Jupiter. A household refrigerator designed by engineer Nathaniel Wells was also created and discovered, but it was a play off of the original icebox that was created in 1913, but it was just newer and improved. The completion of the Panama Canal, that's considered one of the seven wonders of the world, at one point was also discovered and finished at this time, in which they discovered that it really helped $1 million industry of transporting goods around the world. How the events, inventions, and discoveries of 1914 influenced 20th century art was Futurism, which was an art form that wanted to get away from old traditional ideas, and it was art that wanted to focus on the modern life, which included violence, speed, machines, and most importantly, change. And change was a very important part of the 20th century art. Now, a lot of the art was influenced by the First World War, as well as many other things that had occurred in 1914, like the creation of many things and discoveries. Modernism, while created decades before 1914, really took a turning point due to the war as well. 3 pieces of artwork from 1914 really showed the different aspects and the different how sides of the spectrum the art was at this time. One of them was the portrait of a German officer, painted by Martin Hartley in 1914, which is the top painting on the top right corner of the screen. Now, another painting that was also created in 1914 was The Futurist Architecture by Antonio Santaella, which is the picture in the middle. And then the final art piece of the many artworks that were happened in 1914 was The Beach Hat by Robert Henry in 1914, which is the bottom picture of the woman in a red sweater with a sun hat with a blue ribbon. And this is the bibliography of my work that I did.